Two men raise the same kid. Same neighborhood, same era, same access to opportunity. One has an advanced degree, a respected career, and a steady paycheck his whole life, and dies with almost nothing saved. The other never finishes college, works a modest job for years, and ends up owning real estate, a business, and a stack of investments. Same intelligence, same work ethic, completely different bank balance. If getting rich were really about being smart or working hard, that outcome shouldn't be possible. But it happens constantly. One of the most talked about money books ever written says the real difference comes down to a single definition, and almost everyone gets it backwards. Here are 5 ideas from that book that explain why a good salary alone rarely makes anyone rich, and what the people who actually build wealth do differently with the exact same paycheck. Ask most people to define an asset, and they'll say something like a thing of value, a house, a car, a nice watch. Kiyosaki's definition is narrower and far more useful. An asset is anything that puts money in your pocket every month, whether you show up to work or not. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket, no matter how impressive it looks. By that definition, the fancy car in the driveway isn't an asset. It's a liability quietly draining your income through payments, insurance, and gas. Most people spend their entire paycheck buying liabilities and calling them assets. This one distinction quietly splits people into 2 financial lives. Someone earning a modest income who consistently buys assets, even small, unglamorous ones, builds a column of money that keeps paying them long after the workday ends. Someone earning a huge income who consistently buys liabilities can still end up with nothing, because every dollar that comes in has somewhere expensive to go before it can turn into anything else. It isn't about how much lands in the account, it's about which column each dollar ends up in, which raises an uncomfortable question about the paycheck itself. Here's the pattern Kiyosaki calls the rat race. You work for money, the money arrives, and most of it immediately goes toward bills that grew right alongside the raise. A bigger apartment, a nicer car, more subscriptions. So you need more money, which means working more, which grows the bills again. The wheel spins faster, but the person on it never actually gets anywhere, because the finish line keeps moving with them. It isn't that these people are bad with money in an obvious way. It's that a bigger income without a change in habits just buys a bigger, faster wheel. Getting off the wheel doesn't require earning less or refusing every raise. It requires redirecting some of each raise into the asset column from lesson 1 before lifestyle expands to absorb it, buying one small income-producing thing instead of one more expensive convenience. The wheel only keeps spinning if every extra dollar automatically becomes a new expense. The moment even a portion of it becomes an asset instead, the whole system starts working in the opposite direction, which leads to the part of the book that sounds the most like career heresy. Kiyosaki's advice here isn't quit your job, it's stop mistaking your job for your business. Your job is someone else's business. You're helping build their asset column in exchange for a paycheck. Minding your own business means spending some time and money outside of work hours, building your own small asset column on the side, a rental unit, a stake in a small venture, an investment portfolio you actually understand. Most people pour 100% of their financial energy into someone else's company and 0% into their own future. Then wonder why retirement feels so far away. The job still matters. It funds the seeds. But the garden is what eventually produces harvests without needing constant tending. Someone who spends 30 years solely climbing a job title with no separate asset column retires with a pension and a plaque. Someone who spends those same 30 years also minding a small business on the side, however modest, retires with the job and a garden that's been quietly growing the whole time. Which brings up the real skill separating the two paths. And it isn't a job skill at all. Kiyosaki argues most schooling teaches people how to work for money, but almost nothing about how money actually works. Reading a balance sheet, understanding how debt can be useful or dangerous, spotting a good deal versus a bad one. He calls this gap financial IQ, and it has nothing to do with traditional intelligence. Plenty of highly educated professionals have a low financial IQ, and plenty of people without formal degrees have a high one, simply because one group studied the subject and the other never did. And financial IQ compounds. The same $1,000 mistake or opportunity looks completely different depending on who's reading the number. The fix isn't a finance degree. It's treating financial literacy as an ongoing skill instead of a mystery reserved for accountants. Reading one book on investing, learning to read a simple balance sheet, understanding the difference between good debt and bad debt. Each one raises financial IQ a notch. Over years, that compounds into someone who can look at an opportunity most people would be scared of and immediately see whether it's a lesson one asset or a disguised liability. Which leaves one final obstacle that has nothing to do with numbers at all. Here's the idea that explains why so many financially smart people still stay broke. Fear. Specifically, the fear of losing money is often stronger than the desire to gain it. So most people never even look at the bridge. They just stare into the chasm and walk away. Kiyosaki's point is blunt. Everyone who has ever built real wealth has also lost money at some point. The difference isn't that they found a way to avoid all risk. It's that they didn't let one fear response turn into a permanent policy of never trying again. That doesn't mean recklessness. It means treating fear as information instead of a stop sign. A calculated risk, sized so a loss would sting but not sink you, teaches more about money in one attempt than years of cautious waiting on the sideline ever could. People with a high financial IQ aren't fearless. They've just taken enough small, deliberate risks that the fear no longer runs the whole decision. Which brings every one of these ideas back to the same simple starting point Kiyosaki keeps returning to. 5 ideas, 1 thread. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes it out, no matter how it looks. Working harder without redirecting income just spins the wheel faster. Minding your own business means building an asset column alongside your job, not instead of it. Financial IQ is a learnable skill, not a personality trait. And the fear of losing money keeps more people broke than any bad decision ever could. None of this requires a huge salary. It requires knowing which column each dollar belongs in. If this changed how you think about assets and liabilities, subscribe. Next up, we're unpacking a book that explains why habits matter more than motivation ever will.